Welcome back to our JavaScript tutorial, everyone. Today on lesson 6, I've taken the liberty of setting up our skeleton for the page again. Now we have our H1A arrays and objects, and we have lesson 6 right here, and then the script has already been linked. Now the first thing we want to do is console log something. Okay, lesson 6 to show that it works. Alright, that works. So today our topic is arrays and objects, as you can probably see on the left side of the screen already. The first thing we want to talk about is arrays. We have touched arrays in a few places during our previous chapters. So right now the first thing we want to do is initialize an array. So we could just say let fruits, let's just say const fruits equal to then an array. So you can add, let's say banana, purple, orange, and so on. I'm going to add a semicolon right there to end it. Now we could just console log fruits and we'll see it returns an array. Alright, can we see it returns an array of 3 values? Anything can be added into an array, and you can even add a number, let's say 4. But that would not make sense right there because it is not a fruit, so I'm going to remove that. Now in order to access items inside of this array is literally a list of items. We can just say console.log, the same thing we did here, but we can say, will you put square brackets and then 0 is the first item, is the first part of it. So when you check, it will return the first item, banana. So if I'm to say 2, it will return the third item. So arrays start from 0, not 1, and then this returns the third one, orange. Now the next thing you might want to do is probably do something like fruits.length. Okay, the length is 3 because it has 3 properties inside, 3 items. I'm sorry. We want to add a new item at the end of fruits, so we say fruits.push. Let's say what new fruit do you think we could add? I'm going to say mango. Alright, so at the end, let's log fruits again and see what is logged. You are going to see fruits now as mango at the end, and if we were to log any other thing around here like the length, it's going to say 4, not 3 anymore. Now another way to add something into an array is to say fruits dot shift. Now shift adds to the beginning. On shift adds to the beginning of the item. I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to say, what else do you think we could add to the beginning? Pineapple. Now if we add pineapple to it and now we want to log fruits again to see what is inside of fruits, can we see it has pineapple at the beginning? So push adds to the beginning, while on shift push adds to the end, and on shift adds to the beginning, adds to start. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is see how to remove items. We can remove by using .pop, fruits.pop. Let's say just pop, it will remove the first element, removes first element. Yeah, they are called elements. Then if you say fruits.shift, this removes last element. Alright, let's log that, and then let's log fruits right here. We'll see that sorry about that. We're going to console.log fruit, and then we can see banana, purple, and orange. We removed the last one and the first one. The first one was what we removed first, then we removed the last item. Now the next thing we want to do is loop through arrays. I think we have done this before, but let's just see this as a refresh. So we'll use a for loop for let const fruit of fruits. I'm sorry, there should be no const there. It's just for let fruits of fruits. Then we could console log fruit, or we could do this. Okay, let's just say console.log fruit, and then it logs them one after the other. Now we want to see how we can map through an array. This is quite tricky. We can go fruits.map, then you put parentheses, and then it accepts an anonymous function, or you can just say function. It accepts a function, and it accepts one parameter. So let's say that parameter is a fruit. You are going through each fruit essentially one by one, and then we can return something. So instead of this, I could just so we return, what could we return? Let's say just return the fruits, and then let's console log. Okay, let's just return console.log fruits. And then it will do essentially the same thing and log it one by one. But there is a different way in which we can do this. I'm going to copy this down using the Shift Alt and the down arrow. I'll comment that first one out, and then I'm going to change a few things here. Here we are using an arrow function. We removed the function keyword and then added an arrow right here. So instead of this type of function, we're using an arrow function. You can use whichever one suits you. And now there are a lot of things you could do with mapping. Now here we just console log the fruit. It also has a second parameter, which is index. So we can also console log index. Can we see it? 0, 1, 2, then banana, purple, and orange. This index is the number, the particular number of that item. Now another thing we could also do with this index right here is this, which we did previously. So instead of just console logging the fruit, we could console log fruits, add square brackets, and then put index inside of it. It will do the same thing because this index is the number, the particular number of that fruit. Okay, I'm just going to log this twice. Fruit. So you would notice there would be two of these fruits every time now. So 0, then banana, then 1 purple, 2 orange. This access the fruit through indexing, and this just access the fruit through the actual fruit from here. While there are two different things, any of them could work. Now map can be used in different ways. It can be used to map through arrays and change a lot of things. So we could say let's say we want to reassign fruit, then I would have to say let right here instead of const. Then we say fruits equal to, now what we want to do here is return something. It has to return something. So let's say we are removing all of this. I'm not logging anything to that console anymore. You know what, I'm just going to comment it out in case you need it. Alright, so we're going to say we just want to add a little something behind each of the fruits. We do not need the index at this point, not really, so I'm just going to leave it out. Let me leave it there for the sake of it. Alright, so the fruit, we would add something behind it. Let's say fruit equal to fruit equal to let's say everything is alright, we can't just say fruit equal to, I'm sorry, we just have to return a value. So let's just add the index behind the fruit. So we'll return concatenation index, I'm sorry, let's use this index, then leave a space, and then the fruits. So first of all, it's going to write the number and then put the fruit. So here we can see now. Let's log fruits right after that. And we have 0 banana, 1 purple, 2 orange, and that's how map works. Next thing we want to learn about on arrays is filter. Filter can be used in different ways, but the most common way is this. Let's say fruits dot filter. Now we start with that particular fruit. Give me a moment. It can also take the value and also the number, but I'm just going to start with the value. So let's just say fruit, because we're talking about one fruit here. Then we want to go through each fruit. Now you have to put a function here. Let's see. So I'm going to put curly braces, and remember, you don't have to put these curly braces if you just want to write one line. This has to return a boolean. If it is true, it would leave the item in there, the element. If it is not true, it would skip that particular element. And then I'm just going to say fruit is not equal banana. This means we want to remove banana from fruit, so we console log fruits, and fruit is still staying the same because we have 0 banana. Now I'll just, okay, let me do that. Maybe I'll just say 0 banana. Okay, all right. The one thing we have not done is fruits equal to that. We need to reinitialize it, reassign essentially. So here now it is out. It is no longer here. We no longer have 0 banana here anymore. Okay, I also want to remove this because I've shown what it can do, and I don't think we should have to see that again. So I'm going to change this back to banana, and now you can see purple, orange, banana has been removed. So whenever you are filtering, you just have to input something. If true, that particular item will remain. If false, that particular item will not remain. Alright, so next thing we want to talk about now is objects. Objects are a pair of key and values. Let's say const profile equal to, you use curly braces, and then you can say name Henry, okay, age 500. all right, and then let's see, let's console log this. And then we have it right there, Henry, then 500. all right, so next thing we want to do here is access something from there. So we could console.log profile dot name, and then it will log Henry, just that. And then we could also do the same thing, but this time we want to access it like, let's use age this time. Age, can we see? Now this is a number, this is a string, so you can really add anything. Student true, yeah, that's it. Okay, so the next thing you could also do, we have already accessed the properties using different methods, using the dot notation and also the brackets, the square brackets. Now the next thing we could also do is update a particular property. So we can say profile dot age equal to, let's see, 30, because we all know 500 is not realistic. All right, so then let's console log profile right there. you can see profile now as age as 30, no longer 500. It is now 30. You could also create a new one. I'm sorry, I will just copy this down. So here now we have, I'll just say profile.country. Country does not exist in there, but immediately I add country, this is a string. Can we see country now exists in here? It says country is Nigeria. You can change an item. You can also add a new item. The next thing you want to learn about is nested objects. This is like putting objects inside of objects. Arrays can also be nested, by the way, so you can have this last value be something like a u. Can we see that? So it's not usually very common, but yeah, we have that. So we really want to talk about nested objects in here because that is more common. So I'll say nested objects. Do not forget this is still under objects. So let's say const so instead of using profile like, I'm going to use something similar to profile, but const student equal to, then that we have name. Let me just copy this. Okay, we have that. I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so well, let me leave age as 30, student as true. Then we can have grades. Now instead of leaving this as a, b or something, we can just add an object and then say math a, say chemistry D, and then so on like that. Okay, I'm going to leave this as a and a. I do not want a D in chemistry. All right, so as we can see, grades is an object inside of another object. So if we console.log student, we're going to have that. We could also console.log student.grades, and then that is an object on its own. So this is an object on its own. It can also have objects. Okay, we can say .grades.math. Can we see that? So student.grade.math. Can you see that? And then it can also work like this. Math. Can we see? It works always. You can access those properties in different manners. And then you could also change something. We could say student.grades.math. We want to change that. .math equal to a plus. And now we have a plus. So if we console.log student.grades, we would have a plus in math and an A in chemistry. Alright, we'll go ahead and work on a simple mini project like we always do in every project. Now, in this mini project, one thing we want to do is bring in an array of users, the way you would usually do in an app or something like that. So each user would be an object. This is how it usually is. I'm going to have 3 users in here, and then I'm going to work on one user, and then I'll populate the others without showing what I'm doing in there. So the first user here is Henry, has an age of this and this grades. Okay, and then this user Henry, let's say I'm going to save this and then just add a name here and say Troy. Then in here I'm going to add a name and say, now we're going to have Jake right here. Okay, that's 3 names. I don't know, there is something wrong. Oh, that's a comma. All right, so we just have bare names in here. Let's continue with this one. All right, so after grades we want to add a simple hobbies list. Apart from this, we are going to add an ID id. So a list of all this, I'm going to say coding and probably the number 1 hobby sleeping. All right, and I'm going to say okay, probably eating. That's really not an hobby, well, we gotta put something, right? Okay, so I'm going to populate the others and I'm not going to let you watch me do it. All right, so I just added some quick things in here. One new thing I added is id to each of them, an id of 1, 2 and 3. Pretty straightforward. In case you want your work to be formatted as mine, just install an extension called Prettier, Prettier. All right, Prettier. So the few things we want to do here is, first things first, in something like this, let's just make a function quickly. Function deletes user. So we want to delete a user, right? The first thing we need is the user's id. That's the only thing we need. And then this is one thing I have not taught you to do in an array. Remember, this is an array of users. Okay, so I'm going to collapse this. All right, so we'll just say const user. We want to find that exact user equal to users dot find. Can we see that? We find user, we're looking for each user, so we'll say the user dot id is equal to the id that has been given. So now this is not what we are supposed to do at this stage, really, but let's console log the user. Remember, we have not called this function for anything yet, and we have not deleted this user. We are only logging the user. Okay, so let's say function, let's call the function delete user, and let's delete user 3. Okay, so can you see it's logging that third user? The user's name is Jake, right? User 3 is Jake. Now right here we're not supposed to be finding anything, so I'll create a new function, and that will be find user. Okay, so let's see, find user, then we do this. All right, so up there I can just say find user, and now find user is complete. Now let's change delete user, because delete user should be done differently. Let's just say find user. Find user works perfectly. Now to delete user, we need to filter. Now instead of user.find, we say user.filter. Can you see that? And then we say user will be equal to, that's if the user id is equal to id. If the user id is not equal to id, remember how we said filters work, right? So I'm just going to remove this because there's really no need. Okay, users equal to that. Yes, so here it's okay, we said const users, let users. Now users have been reassigned to have the user.filter. Can we see this? Now to re-explain how filter works again, it picks each user, check if the user id is not equal to the id, then lets it pass. But immediately the user id is equal to id, it does not add it. So whatever id you pass in, so let's delete user 2 this time, delete user 2, and then immediately after that we want to console log users. Okay, so we did find user 3. Let's see, 119 113. Okay, that's it. Here user 3 has been found. And then here when we deleted user 2 after logging users, this is what we have now. Yeah, users now has this instead. So there is only 2 users left. User 2 has disappeared, user 2 has been deleted. So we can say console.log deleting user, then we'll add the id user id, not 2. So deleting user 2. So assuming I passed in user 1 here, then we would have deleting user 1. So Yeah, I'm just going to leave it as user. So now that's pretty straightforward. We can find a user and also delete a user. There are other ways in which we can edit users and all, but I think we should just leave it as that.